to a Hope 1032 podcast.
Hello friends, I'm Colette Smart, psychologist, teacher and author, and it's so good to have you here on the Raising Teens podcast. I have such hope for this generation of teens, and so if you're navigating the ups and downs of life with teens and tweens, you've come to the right place. My guests and I are here to share practical, science-backed tips to support you and your family today. Don't forget to subscribe and then join me on my Instagram and Facebook, and let's help this generation thrive together. Welcome to this week's mini episode. It's based on a listener question, and Anna has asked, I'm trying to support my teens' mental health, but they don't want counselling. What should I do? This is something quite common that parents come to me and talk to me about, often after I've delivered a parenting seminar, and parents can feel almost at the end of their tether when they ask this question because they are worried about their child. So I think the first thing is to take a deep breath, because a no to counselling doesn't mean a child is rejecting help. It's not a sign that things are hopeless. That can be our first reaction as parents, feeling like, I really don't know what to do now because I've offered counselling, or that my child can go and see a professional and they have rejected it, and I feel helpless because I don't know how else to support my child. So we can take a few steps in approaching this, but remember that many teens, they kind of see counselling initially as scary. They feel like they're going to be exposed, or they're kind of being told that something's wrong with them. And this resistance isn't often about the counselling itself. It's about them wanting to have some kind of control of what is going on in their lives. So here are 6 things that you could try that might help you. As always, in some of the suggestions I give you, not all of them will be right for your family. You might just find one step here or one of the points here that you think you could try for your child today. The first one is, it's okay to feel like we don't need to force it straight away, because often pushing too hard can reinforce the feeling that they're not being trusted. It's important to let our teens know that we care about their well-being, but that you hear their hesitation. Tell them that you don't expect an answer straight away and that they can take some time to think about it. So even if you're listening to this and you've asked it before, you can broach the subject gently again and say to them that you don't expect an answer right now. Ask them to hear you out and hear some of the details that you want to talk about so that they've got some information to think about. Even if you say, last time I seemed to push quite hard, but I don't want to do that today, and I just want you to think about some of the things that are on my mind. And then let's chat again in a few days. So you could start by explaining exactly where they could be going, or what a counselling session might look like, who they'll meet and how long it will take. You could do this in general terms, because I think teens need to be part of the process, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Then acknowledge that it can be really hard to talk to someone new. Even for adults, it can feel a little bit scary. It can feel quite vulnerable. And even adults worry about being judged. That's a normal reaction to have. And then also reinforcing that counsellors are bound by confidentiality. So counsellors have to keep what your child says private, and particularly if your child is going to counselling and they're a little bit older, a counsellor will not tell a parent all the details about what a child has told them or spoken to them about. And that's really important for your child to know. Sometimes parents will balk at that a bit, but if you are going to trust a professional with your child, you need to trust that the professional will talk to you or tell you if there is any danger or if there's anything they are extremely worried about. Otherwise, we need to, as parents, trust that a counsellor has our child's best interest at heart. Obviously, much younger teens and young children, parents will be very much part of the process. But then, of course, if a teen wants a parent part of the process, and even when I work with teens, I encourage teens to have their parents as part of the process because the parent lives with the child day to day, and it's important for the parent to be part of supporting the child and not allowing the teen to just do things all on their own. So talk all about the confidentiality there, and that a counsellor will only ask for your support if your teen has said that's okay for older teens. Then I think use the phrase that I love from Michelle Mitchell, and it goes something like, you don't have to have support. You're not broken, but I can see that you're working so hard at working things out right now, and I believe that you deserve support. That is Michelle's line. I believe that you deserve support. Then you could also suggest just keeping it as a trial period. So say something like, have a go at 1 session or 2 sessions, and if you really don't like it, you don't have to go back. Just see what it's like. Again, normalizing that everyone needs to talk to someone from time to time, adults included, and even adults that don't reach out for support struggle with their mental health and their personal lives. Tell them also that you will involve them in the process of finding someone. So that goes back to what I was saying right in the beginning about explaining what's going on in the process. But our teens need to feel part of the choices and part of the decisions. So when you talk to your GP and you find certain names or you're looking for certain recommendations, help your teen be part of the process of choosing who they decide to go and see. And ask them if they think about a time that they could chat to you now, again in a few days' time. And then what we need to do is say to our teens, again, that they don't need to give us an answer straight away, but they can have some time to think about it, perhaps a few days, and then they can come back and give you some of their thoughts on what you've spoken about just then. But it's important for you to ask them to give you a time. So say, is Saturday okay? Or is next Monday after baseball or after violin okay for us? I'd like to talk to you about this again, but let's go through this. We don't have to do it right now. So having a concrete time is important. It gives them a time period for thinking about what you've asked them or what you've suggested. It's not just open-ended. Then it's also important for us to get curious when that time comes, when we talk with them again after they've had some time to think. We get curious rather than defensive. We could start with, well, I was wondering if you had some thoughts about what we chatted about a few days ago. And you might say something like, is there anything that specifically worries you about counselling, or anything that specifically worries you about what I mentioned in our last discussion? Or do you have any more questions after some of the things that you've thought about? Because sometimes our teens will talk about this fear of being judged, or not knowing what's going to happen, or not wanting to talk to a stranger. It can help to remind our teens that counsellors are like coaches. Even the best musicians or the best sports people have a coach that helps them when things get tough or don't go in the way that they planned. And remember, our teens sometimes won't actually name or say out loud that they're afraid of being judged. We might say, sometimes people can feel a little bit afraid that they're going to be judged, or they're a little bit unsure about what will happen, and that's why we hold back. Give them some of the words that might be going through their minds. Again, frame it as a general thing rather than you might be afraid of being judged, because that sounds judgy in itself. Then, of course, keep the door open. You could try something like, again, we don't have to decide right now. If you change your mind, we can come back to this. So even that alone will reduce some of the pressure with your child. And if your child is still hesitant, we could say to them that we're going to look for other forms of support. I mentioned that everyone deserves support, so you could rephrase that again and then say something like, even if you don't want to try a counsellor right now, who else could we talk to? Which adults can we ask to support you and step in when things are tough, that you can just go and spend some time with, kick a ball with, have a coffee with, or a milkshake with, or get on the phone with? Who is an adult or two adults in your life that you see that you could do that with? And who do you want to get support from? It's important to ask our teen about which adults they see as important in their lives. This also helps it to become concrete in terms of taking some small steps forward in your teen reaching out for help. Some teens might be open to trusted adults like a GP. So that could be your first suggestion. It could be a school well-being staff member, a school support coach. It could be the school tutor who's head of their grade that they really get on with, or their maths teacher that they really connect with. There are even online supports. It could be a youth leader when it's done in an open space. Remind your teen that help doesn't have to look like traditional counseling or therapy to be helpful for them. And then finally, I think above all else, focus on your relationship with your teenager first. Feeling safe and respected and heard at home lays such a good foundation for a teen to eventually feel like they can accept outside support. And feeling heard and safe at home isn't always about talking. It's often those unspoken things. Just letting them sit in silence next to you while they're eating lunch, but someone's there. Or sitting next to you while they're watching their favorite Netflix show, or even with their headphones on. Just having someone in the room sometimes for some of our teens, without us making demands on them to talk to us all the time, can help them feel safe, especially if they know they can talk to you and you've told them, I'm here for you whenever you like. I'm not going to force you to talk to me, but I'm here and I'm around you. And so even if your teen isn't ready for counseling, you can still seek support as a parent. Getting guidance for yourself can often strengthen how you show up for them, and that matters more than I think you realize. And so out of all the things that we've chatted about today, what is just one thing that might work for you and your family? Perhaps you have a friend whose teen deserves support and you might like to share this episode with them. Thanks so much for joining me, and see you next week. If you found this episode helpful or gained some useful insight from it, please subscribe and review wherever you get your podcasts, and consider sharing it with your friends and family. I hope to see you next episode, but in the meantime, keep parenting with your teen's future adults in mind.
Hope 1032. Thanks for listening.